Welcome back, everyone. If everyone can take their seats, we'll get started again. All right, after the great morning introductions, we explored a couple of different topics. We're going to start digging in a little bit more in depth into some case studies. Our first case study is going to be coming out of Japan. Shoko Nakai with JPCERTICC will be looking into fake spies' activities and trends in Japan.
Hi. Hello. I'm Shoko from JPCERTICC Coordination Center. Yeah. I'm gonna talking about the fake spy, the recent fake spies activity and a trend in Japan. So, okay. This is an agenda. First, I like to talk about the fake spy, how observed in Japan, and how much impact on Android OS users. So then I will show our analysis result and our action and future challenges at the end. Okay, about fake spy, I'm not sure that everybody here understand what fake spy is. So let me explain a little bit about fake spy. Okay, so the fake spy is a malware which is targeting Android OS. That is, this objective is to steal the information from infected device. Okay, so let me talk about a few previous cases here. And as you can see, this like map. And we have been dealing with like Android OS cases since 2012. In 2012, they used third-party application store or drive-by download as a method to infect the malware. But recently, through root hijacking or SMS is the most common method. And my slide focused on the 2018 SMS method. It's going to be a fake spy. Oh. Okay. In RA 2018, many reports were informed to JPCERTICC from constituency. And according to the report, it includes both like a phishing information URL and APK file information. And those are like purporting to be on a specific entity. And we found that through a quick checking and host name or APK file name. And others, and the users are actually guided through SMS. Okay, here's the numbers. The report about the fake spy from January 2018 to January 2019. The report spiked from like November to December, and still constantly we receive from the report from constituency. Actually, I just listed three companies here because we found those companies' name within the APK files name. So I would like to say that the three companies are targeted by the attacker. And three companies like Sagawa Express and Yamato Transport and ASEAN as well. And Sagawa Express cases, unfortunately, is still ongoing. And I will explain what is about the Sagawa Express company's characteristic and how and what observed are related with the Sagawa hereafter. Okay, Sagawa Express is the one of the major transportation companies in Japan. Their service is to deliver packages to the customer. If the recipient is absent, the driver leaves a message note and posts it. And so recipient will be able to arrange the redelivery. And if you're making a phone call or using an online service that Sagawa provided too. And what I wanted to say here is like SMS is not really used for attempted delivery notice and or redelivery arrangement at all. Okay, this is a real SMS message that victim received, and it says, we attempted to deliver packages to you, but we take it back due to your absence. So please check below. And if you click the below URL, then a fake website appears. This is, I showed both like a fake website and legitimate website. So you can see a so similarity here and a very elaborate work. And a fake one, like a convinced to install an APK file, but a legitimate URL is just providing a search function. At the time, everybody who faces this fake website like has no doubt to click the APK file, right? Because so appearance is very enough to believe, and there is no choice at the time. This is a phishing content and APK install page. When you click anywhere in the fake site, either a phishing content or APK install page will appear. On the phishing content, it asks to input an Apple ID credentials. Even Sagawa Express really does not associate it with Apple ID credentials to use their service. And on the other hand, APK install page, it breaks it down to instruct on APK install and explain how impact after installing. But if you read carefully and have a little bit of knowledge about like a privileges, you will not allow to install that kind of APK file. But most of the people really don't pay attention very well, that kind of explanation. And so they may follow this procedure with no question. Just click and OK to download, right? Okay, from here, JPCERTICC's analysis result. Yeah, JPCERT just started to collect the information to understand what is going on around the Sagawa Express. So since most of the report says that the fake domain start with Sagawa dash, so we think that we will be able to make a possible domain name list by and searching by full A's to identify if the domain name is resolvable and what IP address actually is associated with, right? And so we run the list once a day, every day. Still running right now. And the second, if the domain name is resolved, then we query the HTTP request against each single resolved IP address to see the HTTP response. And if it return HTTP response called like a 200, then next we do the double get to obtain a phishing content and APK file data from a certain host. This is how to work. Actually, I just explained before, but I'll do it again quickly. And number one, generate the domain list. We generate a possible domain name list and run once a day. Then I get result of the IP address which associated with domain name. That is number two, generate IP list. And then searching based on the IP address, and we searching for it while querying HTTP request toward a resolved IP address. and see the response. That's going to be 3 and 4. Then we store all results in one database. Okay, this is a result on January 31st, 2019. The resolvable domains are 940 domains, and associated IP address numbers are 171. It's on the January 31st. It's changing constantly every day. And this is a resolved domains. Can you see it? You can see all of them. Actually, I skipped intermediate letter, so you can see the series of alphabetical letters, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, Z, right? And so I would like to say that there is some like irregularity of under the making of fake domains, and from this result. Okay, so we also investigated the result. We based it on the FOIS database, and when the domain was purchased and from who. This is really actually good to see until July 27th, 2019. The attacker seems to purchase the domain name from like a Chengdu West Dimension Digital. After that, they just shifted to Synnet technology. And this is the price of Chengdu West Dimension Digital as of December 2018. It says like 35 China yuan. It's gonna be around like $5 US. This is a Synnet technology's price. As you can see, it's more cheaper than the Chengdu West Dimension, right? So we checked this both price in the same period. What I can say about the domain, that I would like to say that mostly are provided by the Chinese registers, and attacker seems to be shifting toward registers who offer cheaper price. And actually, this is my personal opinion though. So if I'm misunderstanding, please let me know, okay? And purchased domain may survive for a longer time than a purchased free domain, right? And because the domain registrar tended to control over the free domains very easily compared to purchased domain that I thought. That means a free domain is easily suspended by the domain registrar and really controllable. And if I'm misunderstanding, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah. And this is about resolved IP address. As you can see the graph, and almost all active malware and phishing sites were hosted on the Taiwanese ISP HiNet. So if you can take a look closer at the HiNet network, I did make a graph by breaking down the HiNet CIDR, and you could see that the attacker really well prepared very wide range network for their infrastructure within the HiNet. I got message from my colleagues that he said that it's just changing the ISP from HiNet to the another ISP right now. So it's gonna be changing the graph after, but I couldn't make the graph yet, so sorry. Okay, from this slide, what I want to say is to coming up with interesting appearance when I click the IP address. And we picked up the several samples to check that what was running on the host by accessing an IP address. So it came out as the same response that looks like a device admin panel, and see the HTTP response that was server is Apache Coyote 1.1. So from this appearance, we could guess that those hosts possibly are compromised and remotely controlled by the attacker, we guess. Also, this is the IP address running a network device as well. It was a Wi-Fi wireless station, I guess. I just Googled it yesterday. About an IP address that I can say is a Taiwanese ISP HiNet is used for attackers' infrastructure. At the time, not now, I think, that's a really well prepared widely, and I would say that Heine is also a victim by attacking from the attacker, I think. Okay, from here, I show you some source code. The first page, this page is redirected to phishing site. You can see the source code. When you click anywhere on the page, you will redirect to pp.html, which is phishing content. And second, this is a page redirecting to an APK install page. There's a source code, no, there's a code, right? And to check user agent if the victim uses Android OS phone or not. Then I redirect to APK install page if you're using Android. And otherwise, if the visitor is not really use the Android OS phone, then maybe phishing contents comes up, not APK install page. And the third, this is also a page which redirects into an APK install page, but there is no checking the code for of a user agent UA. That means everybody who visit this fake website will be able to install APK. That means attacker really wants everybody to install APK by all means, right? So we have seen various patterns of source code so far. So it seems like the attacker really wants to install them, everybody, to install APK file. Okay, about APK files, actually we could obtain like AAT files during beginning of December 2018 to end of January 2019. This is a result of APK file analysis. It contains code that attempted to host some information to the host information, post some information, okay. Host information is going to be a CNC server that is controlled by an infected device. Okay, we analyzed the several APK files, then we found two host information which was hard-coded in the APK file, and according to the FUIS database, they also belong to a high-net network. And APK functions. I'm talking on this slide just only one sample because we just observed around November 2018. There are lots of samples in the internet, so if you pick up the one sample, it's going to be different functions come up by your analysis, okay? So we analyze it and could figure out some functions as shown slide. So at first, infected device send some information to a CNC server, such as like a serial number and all installed application information and a device model and OS version. And also SQLite letter if it's updated. And in a second, and the CNC server sends a command in return. And so it causes the infected device to send out SMS message to the based on the contact list the infected device host, the hold. And then in some cases, a new CNC server address is specified in the command to switch in the communication route. I don't know why. But I will say that those functions may be updated from day to day, right? Okay, whole picture about FakeSpy. Up to here, I talked about some components with enabled to this attack, such as like SMS and fake domains and servers. Those are hosting phishing contents or APK files, and other than that, the host, which are acting as a CNC server, and also associated stakeholders and mobile network operators and internet service providers and domain registers, etc. This is a correlation diagram based on our analysis result and coordination. As you can see, there are three box I described by each stakeholders, like a mobile network, an ISP, and a domain register. So also I shows each devices and actors how to work to accomplish this attack. And at first, the attacker needs to set up their infrastructure by registration of fake domain name, and to prepare many compromised hosts to host to malicious contents like a phishing and APK file, and also for CNC server. And the next, an infected device, which is in a mobile network box, spread out the SMS to another Android device to convince to install an APK file after having a several communication with a compromised host. And finally, the CNC server could get another infected device information and control them to send yet another SMS again and over again. Our action and future challenges. There are three things that we have done so far. Number one, domain register. We inform fake domain information to register to request to suspend them. And number two, for ISP, we requested to ask admin of web server to take it down the phishing contents and APK file to unable to access them from internet. And number three, law enforcement agency and a national CSIRT. We provided related information to Taiwanese law enforcement agency, such as CNC server IP address, and APK file hash values. So what I want to say is to iron out this problem, we really work together above three entities very well. And the color parts are where we JPCERTICC has been working so far. Other things that we have done is to provide the fake domain information to the browser operator to alert when victim accesses a fake website. And also to security vendor, we shared IRCs to them to reflect in their product. So what else? What we can do more? And what about blank part? Okay, so I just think that a mobile network provider. I think this is going to be really hard and a big challenge because previously I told you before, fake APK was distributed through like third-party application stores or website. But recently, we observed this attacking launched under root hijacking or SMS. So I just think about the measures toward both. Against root hijacking, this is happening because of misconfiguration of router or not well-managed network router. So I can suggest to reconfigure the settings and just to replace the router, right? But what about SMS spams? Actually, I know there's some like some measure that some like a protection services that mobile network provider offers. Each mobile network mobile network provider offers, such as blocking malicious traffic that enable to block them based on their blacklist. If based on blacklist, so if the IP address that is assigned to mobile phone attempted to communicate to the malicious host, they can block it. I understand there is some like measures, but I would like to say here is to not only for like well-educated people who will be able to setting that kind of rule by themselves, but also for everybody, like using SMS and internet, how to protect every users without like requiring troublesome operations, right? So I would like to say that I really love to explore the possibility of new measures, if there be, against SMS spams by working with a mobile network operator. So I really love hear from some comments from them. Do some work together. And also, this is a big challenge too for domain register against the registrant. Yes. Actually, I understand that this challenge is going to be like directly linked to their business for better or worse. But to screen like a registrant or to have some criteria to identify if this registration is malicious domain or not. But I believe it's going to be a benefit for their business for future. So I just want to, if I could talk with the domain register and if I share with them what I want to see through our research or our coordination, then it's going to be really appreciated to have that chance to talk with them. So we would like to consider how to prevent fake domain from registered again over and over and over again, right? So that's all. Thank you for listening to my presentation. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your introduction. Kenny Huang, Executive Council member of APNIC and CEO of TWNIC and JPCERTICC.
Yes.
And basically just try to rephrase, because Taiwan seems to be the major source of global cybercrime. And starting from this year, JPCERTICC function has been transferred to TWNIC starting from the 1st January this year.
Yes.
So as taking over this critical function of JPCERTICC, we commit to serve the community with more security consideration. For example, like we have a very close relationship with the law enforcement agency, with the police investigation department, and also with the cybersecurity department. So we can ensure if any notification, what happened in whatever country, for example, like Japan, once we receive the instant notice, we can respond in time, because the application between, for example, like we have several partner country with a different local operator, like we have registrar contract with a local operator, and we have local internet registry contract with local operator. And we also have some memorandum of understanding with a local supporting partner. So we can ensure a certain service level will be reached as long as we got an instant report from different other area. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ali?
Yes, Adli. Your presentation has this malicious APK, and then I think MyCert also had an incident with a malicious APK. Do you guys recommend to Android users to have anti-malware on their phones, or just your thoughts about that? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I needed to talk with them more closely. What is there any measures on the protect malware things? But I just know one thing, that they have a blacklist to filter the communication with the CNC server. That's all. So if there is like another protection to not infect the malware things, I recommend to do it. But I don't know right now.
Hello, my name is Joy Chen. I'm from TWNIC in Taiwan. And follow up on what my CEO has mentioned, I just want to reinforce a few things, because this is the first time I am attending the first technical track. And this is the 4th presentation this morning. And out of the 4, I have heard 2. One is from the Malaysia CERT, and from the JPCERTICC about the threats or the different incidents from Taiwan. And because I'm located in Taiwan, and since January this year, I'm taking over we are taking over STW-CERT/CC.
Yes.
So I think platforms or conferences like this is very important, because other than the normal process and procedure that we proceed with the different guidelines when we having threat attack, we also want to make sure that people that you are going to be able to deal with, that you are knowing. So I'm here making myself visible to let all of you know, and to turn this to be a very constructive and healthy way, that other than the process and procedure that we do, and inform to the law enforcement or whoever that needs to know that we are also the people, or at least I am the people to come to, and I'd be happy to work every individual cases if there's any help that we can do to speed up and to make things work. Because I think that in the cybersecurity world, if it doesn't happen here, it's happening there. So it's the same attitude that we should all hold. So I just want to make sure that I reinforce this if I did not make it very clear, also for the benefit of the people who just joined this session, that we're here to be a part of it. So whatever that's happening anywhere in the world, this is a global issue. So we're here. So let us know. And I think I'd like to know every one of you who dealing with the search issues, threats, or response, so we can make things happen better and faster. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that comment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Shoku Nakai, your
Yes.
presentation. I think my question is similar to Sadi.
Okay.
Do you consider these impacted users you found the kind of
Communication?
this endpoint, the impacted users? Do you consider that kind of the users? How to figure out impacted users and mitigate and notify them?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we received some information from TWNSR because they do the investigating on the CNC server sometimes, and so they provide us some like infected device information to JPCERTICC, so we can reach them out to let them know your phone is infected. Maybe, because we couldn't figure out this communication because we are standing outside of this communication, right? And so they help us to understand how many devices infected in Japan, but not all of the infected devices, I guess. But that's the way that we can understand this phone is infected. But I'm not sure how the victim deal with this infected phone. They just reboot? No, not reboot. Yes. Reinstall the operation system. So it's gonna help to remove the malware from the infected device. But I'm not sure that each mobile operator to instruct the victim to how to reinstall that kind of things. So I think that we have to let them more clearly understanding about how to clean up the malware things, to let them know to your phone is infected. And one of the things I just want to say is that if the phone is infected, this phone it's gonna be like cost lots of money requested from the mobile network operator, mobile network company, because the infected device tried to send out lots of SMS message to the other mobile phone. So it's gonna be cost a lot, like a price requested from the mobile network operator. So they can find that.
Yes, it's challenging things, I think. And thank you for answer.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shoko.
Thank you.
It's great to see the people connecting through the presentations and things like that. That's what this is all about. And as Shoko mentioned in her presentation, as we saw on the floor, it's really important to have these kind of trusted spaces where industry can come together, where folks from across the globe can come together to help build those connections and hopefully build a more secure internet. We're lucky to have another one of those forums, another one of those platforms for trusted industry collaboration and sharing here with us for the next presentation. We have Severin Walker from MOG, as well as Suji Sakuraba from JPAAWG. He leads the newly established, Japanese structure and partner for MOG. And they're going to be presenting on Global Anti-Abuse Working Group Trends and Current Work. So let's welcome them up. just have to pull that up.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, it definitely hits on kind of the intent of this presentation and why we're here to discuss MOG and JPOG to the FIRST and APNIC crowd. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what MOG is, what our mission and goals are, how we operate, and some updates on some recent activity and milestones achieved at MOG. And then that'll segue into Sakura-Basan's overview of JPOG, which is much more the interesting and relevant initiative to be discussed here. So, quick introduction. I'm the board chairman at MOG. I also co-chair the technical committee, which brings in a lot of the technical presentations and the work on the technical documents and best practices. I also work at Comcast, where I'm the director of service policy assurance. We do risk intelligence and policy intelligence, as well as review the overall incident processing for our customers and our customer remediation platforms. So who is MOG? For those not familiar with it, we are the Messaging, Malware, and Mobile Anti-Abuse Working Group. As you've heard throughout today and yesterday, these sorts of areas for collaboration, this ability to discuss security issues in a trusted forum with one another is very critical to the overall operation of our networks, the protection of our customers, the protection of the internet in general. So within North America and Europe, about 15 years ago, several operators came together and discussed how to kind of form a working group where we could work on the major problem of that time frame, which was spam and virus propagation, and share data, share processes, and work more cohesively than just sending email reports back and forth and hope someone reads them. This has grown to be 200-member organizations worldwide. That includes operators, service platforms, social media platforms, banks, governments, CERTs, et cetera. And our conferences we hold 3 times a year, range from 300 to 600 participants, depending on the location and the topics being discussed. Again, though, as you see in the breakdown, it is fairly a majority North American European participation. So too many US voices talking about global issues, not enough Asian Pacific voices talking about these global issues such as DDoS and malware propagation. So what do? Again, we focus primarily on messaging, malware, and mobile. These are platforms, though, that kind of expand out to things like DDoS attacks and IoT device security. We work on best practice papers, BCPs and BCOPs, to kind of inform the industry on a consensus of recommendation on how to address these issues. We also put together position statements which can address public policy makers and again, form those consensus opinions on what the security researchers, the security experts may think on a particular issue or a particular piece of legislation. So we've published opinions as a consensus, as a organization to the U.S. government at different times when the FCC has proposed legislation. We do not lobby governments, but again, being able to speak as a body of industry experts, as operators, as CERTs, does carry with it a lot of weight with these government organizations. And most importantly to me, we provide training and education, both to our members, but through our materials that we make available on the website. This is something I'll get into in a little bit, but this is ongoing efforts in which we seek to work with organizations like APWG, like FIRST, to kind of develop these resources that are available that don't require membership, but that we could potentially lend our resources to. Again, just more explanation of what we provide there. Text may be a little too small to see. So again, going back to the working group dynamic, as you've heard many times, we can't effectively fight abuse on our own, right? If I just focus on Comcast IP addresses, that doesn't necessarily protect our customers, and it doesn't protect your customers from potential infections or attacks originating from our network. Likewise, some of the agreed upon reporting mechanisms aren't always effective in addressing these things as quickly as possible or in a timely fashion. So, all of us build trust frameworks, trust circles that we know we have contacts. If I have a problem at LinkedIn, I know who to contact over at LinkedIn potentially with their mail service. Likewise with IIJ, et cetera, other people in this room. We build these contacts. We're probably building these contacts today, and MOG's just a further extension, a larger scale version of that, in which we facilitate that sort of collaboration and that sort of discussion, within a trusted environment that our member companies are aware is a trusted environment, allows us to participate, and benefit from that. So because of this, we'll have activities such as open roundtable discussions and breakout sessions where it's not just one-way communications. It's not just one person providing use case examples or process overview or training, but there's a lot of opportunity for group discussion, for two-way communication to kind of work out what is the best way to address an issue or make sure that we hear from a diverse number of voices and backgrounds when we're considering a possible recommendation to the industry. We work with a number of organizations that I'm sure people in this room are fairly familiar with. APWG has been a long-standing MOU and partnership with a lot of membership overlap. We also work with LACNIC and established the Latin American and Caribbean Anti-Abuse Working Group in 2017. I should say members of LACNIC established that. We helped kind of consult, we lent them resources, but they are an independent group that established a charter and began working on some of their own initiatives relevant to the Latin American region and regulatory environment. Our next meeting, or our previous meeting just last week, just to give an idea, 602 attendees, 24 countries, and that included about 140 new attendees. We had about 175 people participating in the training sessions. Every Monday during the event, we provide multi-hour training sessions from other experts, other trainers. And those open roundtables that I discussed where we kind of have breakout sessions to discuss specific topics, that had 165 people attending and actively participating in a facilitated environment. So again, if you can imagine, 160 people all in a room, breaking out into about 5 or 6 sessions with the intent of just contributing to a problem. We can get a lot done in that fashion by opening up that collaboration. The upcoming meeting will be this June in Budapest. So, if you are a MOG member or interested in becoming a member or interested in attending and hearing about things, all of our content is primarily driven by submissions from attendees, members, et cetera, in order to make sure that, what we're bringing to the physical meetings is as relevant as possible and that we're hearing from as many different voices as possible. So let's get into current work a little bit and actually discuss kind of some of the things that are being done at MOG and where potentially you could contribute either through MOG or through other similar working groups. Our Abuse Desk Committee is currently working on training materials like I described earlier. These are being primarily developed for ISPs and service platform operators. So I know FIRST and different certs are developing a lot of incident response team materials. We would like to kind of supplement that with abuse desk training materials for operators. And this includes a heavy focus on business justification. In my traveling and even talking to MOG members, what we hear time and time again, and it's the same all around the world, we can't get the budget to do this, or our company doesn't support us in doing abuse desk operations because they see it as a revenue loss, or there's just not a return on investment in it. And what we seek to do with this training, in addition to providing guidelines for automation and kind of best practice handling of abuse incidents, is that business justification. This is why it is important to your company. This is where you can actually quantify finances to incidents and protect yourselves from that sort of loss by investing in an abuse desk operation. Again, very important. We're looking for additional input on that, people to kind of review, add their experience to it, so that this is eventually a training package that we don't just provide at MOG, but that we could provide to first members, we could provide to various certs, and they could hand it down to operators, and essentially train the trainer, right? You don't need me traveling all around the world providing this training. We would like it to be kind of regionalized and just propagate out there and for the betterment of the internet, essentially. We also have a data and ID protection committee. They focus on a lot of communication security topics and have produced a lot of really kind of short, concise papers recommending best practices for uses of TLS, the newer versions of TLS, third-party DNS providers, and other forms of encryption recommendations. We also have a DDoS committee. They just, as of last week or the week prior, published BGP flow spec best practices. So this really gets into detection and mitigation of DDoS attacks. And this group is a newer one for MOG, but it's definitely growing. We kind of co-hosted a full-day workshop last week with NANOG, since we were both in San Francisco at the same time. And you had various people from operators, cable labs, certs, all discussing device security, and how to kind of better address the growing issues with DDoS. And as we saw yesterday, the growing size of DDoS, topping multiple terabytes per second. Our DNS abuse group is working currently. We do have some overlap with ICANN as far as participants go, and so a focus on the GDPR impact with the WHOIS changes. We'll probably be seeking some joint presentations on that and further work with ICANN. Our hosting committee is currently releasing or currently finalizing a draft for a crypto mining anti-abuse best common practice, again for hosting operators or hosting platform operators. Our mobile committee has begun collaboration with the GSMA to look at RCS, anti-abuse recommendations and training. This is, with RCS potentially, replacing SMS or at least gaining popularity in general. We want to try and get ahead of the abuse vectors as much as possible and trying to get carriers to protect against these abuse vectors before it turns RCS into the same sort of, let's say, problem-ridden platform that SMS quickly became. And finally, with our LACOG participants, they are finalizing a draft of a device security BCOP that we will be jointly producing as both MOG and LACOG. And so I want to touch on this because it kind of segues into the JPOG work as well and some of this regional participation. In Uruguay, LACNIC 2017, we held a town hall with about 26 to 28 operators, certs, and other participants to kind of focus on what's the first initiative that LACOG wants to address. And it quickly became apparent everybody wants to try and get a consensus voice around device security, specifically with CPEs that are put into the home. As I'm sure happens all over the world, there are devices put in with open telnet ports, with no credentials or admin credentials, open SSH ports, etc., that are used in things like botnet attacks, DDoS amplification attacks, etc. And so the drive here is to be able to empower operators to go to these manufacturers and say, here's a checklist, a minimal checklist that you need to meet in order to provide our customers or sell us in bulk these devices for our customers and to better strengthen the networks in general. So that, LACOG did a lot of the work. Now you have North American operators contributing and adding, some feedback into that. And that document should go out fairly shortly, within the next month or so. Again, this is a global problem, and so this kind of segues into our work with our Japanese members and the founding of JPOG, which Sakura-san will speak to momentarily. This document could very easily be translated into Japanese and be used by Japanese operators. And I think, again, it's very relevant, worldwide, that we get the voices input on the document and then, empower you to further use them from there. So, just an example of a MOG's outreach program, what we're trying to do, and some of the output from that. And with that, I will turn it over to Sakura-san, and he will speak to JPOG. While we're doing that, any questions? Is this one? Okay. Nope. All right. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shuji Sakuraba from IIJ and JPN. So I'd like to introduce our working group, JPN, in short presentation. So at first, introduce myself. I'm work at IIJ, Internet Institute Japan, and I work for 80 years about email service. And at first, I design and implement our email service. After that, I research and development and for new messaging system. And currently, I work for the anti-spam activities in Japan and also in global, like MAN. And I work for other organizations in Japan. And for example, I'm chair of the anti-spam committee in Internet Association, I Japan, formerly. It calls I Japan. And I also the vice chair of the Anti-Spam Mail Promotion Council. Maybe it's not good translation, the directly translation from Japanese to the English. We often use the ASPC. So I also the chair of the technical working group of the ASPC. And since ASPC was established, so currently I tentative chair of the JPN. So it's a new role for me. And today I'd like to introduce the JPN and the history of the anti-spam activity in Japan. So after MAN was established, maybe 2004, IIJ became a member since the MAN was established, but there are no other Japanese company in MAN, so we discussed in the Japanese company, and it needs to establish a similar working group in Japan, so we established the JIN, the Japan Email Anti-Abuse Group. So JIN promoted two main countermeasures for spam. One is the OP25 blocking. It's blocking outbound port 25 from the dynamic address space to blocking the spam sending from the botnet. So, and other countermeasures, the sender authentication technologies, such as SPF and DKIM. So, after our activities, that we published the three recommendations. So, OP25 blocking and sender authentication technology, and how to mitigate the spam to the mobile phone. So that result indicates there are two numbers. So one is the spam ranking published by security vendor, so forth. Published the quarterly ranking the spam sending country. So it's called the Dirty Dozen. So at first, Japan, the ninth ranking, 2005. So after we introduced the OPT25 blocking, so it decreased the ranking to 33rd. So it's maybe a kind of the successful our achievement. So another result is the SPF publishing rate in .jp domains. So at first, 2005, only 0.1% is the published SPF record. But we promoted the SPF and also the DKIM, but SPF easily identify the SPF record is easy to catch the DNS service. So we easily to measure the SPF record publishing. So result is at the 2012, 43% published the SPF record in JP, and the newest measured indicated they are near to the 60% their SPF record published. It's also our achievement, I think. So after June, and we established a new working group, JPN. It's similar to the G, and but after we published the recommendation, we achieved some results. So we stopping the activity. So, but we discussed with the Hmong people, and Sebi-san also discussed, and we need more active. So in Japan, and we need more industry-driven working group. It's needed in Japan. So, and we get the support from the Hmong. So we started a new working group. It's named JPR. So this is one of the press release my company published it, and we also some companies published a similar press release, and last year we established the new working group JPR. So, and we also held the first general meeting in last year, November. So it's a one-day event. Venue is the Akasaka Intercity Conference Center, Tokyo. So at the right side is our program. So there in AM, so we have some speaker from the Hmong side, and the Sebi-san also came to the and spoke their keynote. So, and the Japanese government have their presentation also. So some experts from the Hmong people have their presentation. And after noon, we have a separated session and two tracking. So we have some speaker from the Japan, the global working group, and very discussed, and I surprised a lot of people attending there. 411 people came to our event. The capacity is only 300, so many people, some people standing there. I'm very surprised, but very happy. So it's a kind of successful event in Japan, I think. So we are planned to the next event in Japan in this year. So some organizations, including the Ministry of Japan, supported our event. So totally the 14 organizations supported us. So current status of the JPN, we are checking their members and collecting members for our activities, so including ISP, mobile carriers, and security vendors, and also also the hosting company and the SNS companies like the Line Corp will become our members. So next step, we have a plan to, we formally start our activities from this April. So we pick up the current topics and establish a new sub-working groups, their chairs. So we pick up the new topics and how to mitigate the antivirus. So, and my topics is DMAC. So DMAC is next step of the SPF DKIM. So we need more promote the DMAC similar to the SPF, but currently there are only less than 1% published in JP domain. So we need more promote the DMARC technology in Japan. So I collaborate with the JPRS. So I have the all JP domain list. So I always checking how many domain published DMARCs. So I try to promote more, increasing the DMARC record to publish. So I mentioned we plan the second JPN general meeting in this November after the 47th Mang general meeting. So we explain the Mang activities and pick up our topics and how to resolve that issues or something. So please join our JPN meeting in November. So I try to introduce some collaboration with the Mang and again, so advertise our next meeting. So at first, we translate some Mang best practice in Japanese. So on the Mang side, also translated page is here. So it's easy to find the Mang best practice in Japanese. So thank you for Mang. And next is we try to our activity to the Asian region. So at first, please join the next second JPN meeting in November again. So I want to share and discuss the current topics in the internet in Asian region. So we not cover only messaging, but also mobile and malware or hosting abuse or something. So we covered a lot of things. So please join our activities. Thank you very much. So you can see our event result in meeting.jpn.org. And if you have any question, please send mail to our contact address. Thank you. Is there any question including the Mang?
Let's have another round of applause for both separate and it's really excellent to see not only the engagement in the last session where everyone was getting up and starting to build that human network, but also seeing the more formalized networks and platforms to share information, increasing their prevalence in the Asia-Pacific region. So it's really nice to see that. But of course, this is a security track. So it's not all ponies and rainbows. Unfortunately, at the request of our next speaker's organization,